Hello and welcome to a new series of Rural Talks. Friends, rural has gone through massive structural changes in the last few decades. Today, India has about 83% all-weather roads, 90% of village have electricity, milk industry has become as big as an agri industry, and so on. But now the post-COVID will be witnessing many changes, whether it is social, emotional, and behavioral. And today I'm with father of rural, Mr. Pradeep Kashyap, a visionary, author, and a TEDx speaker who has witnessed all these changes and is here to discuss Neo Rural, a perspective by accidental rural guru. Mr. Pradeep Kashyap is CEO and founder of Mart, a leading consultancy firm. He has authored Rural Marketing, which is like Philip Kotler of rural marketing, and for his contribution, the field of rural development has been honored with Lifetime Achievement Award by Ramai. He conceived Gram Shri Melas for the sale of rural products in urban centers and co-created Project Shakti with Hindustan Unilever. So, not wasting much time, let me welcome Mr. Pradeep Kashyap to Rural Talks. So, welcome Mr. Pradeep Kashyap to Rural Talk. And sir, you had a very illustrious career spanning almost about 30 years. So you have been called as a father of rural. So you've been saying that this has been accidental. So just could you tell us how this thing came up, and how would you visualize the rural in next 10 years or 20 years from now? I mean, as a father, how do you see the picture overall as a for the India as a country?
Okay, Ajay, thank you very much for having me on the show. I'll start by giving you a little background.
Yes.
I worked for 20 years with three multinational companies in India: Exide Batteries, Bosch from Germany, and Denso from Japan. And like it happens to most corporate people, after a while they start getting restless and bored. I was really getting bored doing the same thing over and over again. So, and plus there's office politics and whatever. And I always felt that I had something within me which I wanted to express in terms of innovation or work, which was not possible in a structured corporate job. So I decided that I should now opt out. And I discussed this with my spiritual guru, who said, the first 20 years for your personal gains, now go out and spend the next 20 years in the villages of India and benefit the rural people by getting them better incomes. So I joined a large NGO in Delhi, and within a couple of weeks, the head of the NGO, who's a very well-known figure in social development, he asked me to accompany him to a workshop in Bhubaneswar on low-cost housing. So this NGO was deeply involved in low-cost housing. We arrived in Bhubaneswar, and within an hour of our arrival, he got a SOS message from Delhi that he must rush back because there's some important meeting that had come up with some minister. So he handed over the slide deck to me, the deck, and he said, Pradeep, you make the presentation tomorrow morning. And this was a presentation in front of all the rural development secretaries from all the states and all the science and technology secretaries from the states. I said, I don't even know what is housing. I don't know what is low cost. He says, you're a marketing person. You must have made so many presentations in your life. So, ek jahan bhi laga dena. So all night I was rehearsing with those slides because he had given me some brief outline, and I kept lagaing ratta ke isko ye bolna hai, wo bolna hai. And the next morning when my turn came, I got up literally sweating. I didn't know a soul in the room because I was so new from the corporate sector into the sector. Nobody knew me at all. So I made the presentation, and after that was a tea break. And the additional secretary, Rural Development, Government of India, walked up to me and he said, Pradeep, that was a brilliant presentation. So I said, so I came clean. I said, sir, I don't know anything about the subject. you know the owner of this NGO. He is the expert, but he had to rush back. So he says, what is your specialization? I said, my specialization is marketing. So he said, wonderful. We have been looking for a marketing advisor in the ministry for a long time and we are not able to find one. So here is my card. And when we get to Delhi, you please come and see me. I met him. He took me to the secretary, rural development, who actually then went on to become the cabinet secretary. So he interviewed me for 5 minutes. And it so happened that our guru was common. So, he had a maybe sympathy factor. And he said, you join from tomorrow. So
Wow.
from a nobody, I suddenly sat at the apex, in the central government, and within a few months, all NGOs, all people in different sectors, they came to know me because I was all the time involved in this. And any letter that was marked around marketing was passed on to me. So I got letters like, we make matka silk. So how should we market it? So I was scratching my head. I'm from the auto sector. और ये मटका सिल्क क्या मटके पे बनाते हैं कैसे बनाते हैं then somebody wrote a saying that we sell diggi mirchi tikki mirchi तो इसको
Yes.
कैसे बेचें so you know so what I did was in a miniature format of Gandhiji for the next 6 months I just traveled the length and breadth of this country trying to understand rural India and when I came back I realized that our artisans are very talented. They produce some of the finest things in the world, but they don't have a marketing outlet. That is their weak area. So that's how I started Gram Shri Melas to bring rural products to urban areas for sale here because these products are produced in the villages, but the buyers for carpets or exquisite dharis or embroidery or all this kantha work and whatever is in urban areas. So I started these melas, they became very successful, and we ended up doing 300 melas in 10 years. And it is, I've not applied to the Guinness Book, but it is a record that there is no other mela system in the world which has done, that many numbers. So this was just a coincidence, and I'm going to share 2, 3 more coincidences how I kept moving up and up. I was born in Delhi, grew up in Delhi, lived in Jorbagh, which is a very posh colony of Delhi. I had never visited a village with any serious intent till I came into rural development at the age of 40. So I had no knowledge about rural. And I have learnt all my knowledge by visiting these, handloom and handicraft groups, by visiting the khadi centers, by talking to women doing the spinning and the men doing the weaving. So my knowledge has been all bottom up. Right? I have not been to a business school, so I don't even have academic knowledge. And I ended up writing a book which is used by all these MBA students, including at IIMs and other places.
Yeah,
Right?
it is
So the
total
knowledge
of
that I had from so it came from the bottom. At every stage, there has been some coincidence or something happening. Now look at
wow.
C.K. Prahlad. C.K. Prahlad is always been a globally known figure because he was rated as the number one management thinker in the world year after year by the Thinkers 50 list. He was in Andhra and he was on the board of Unilever. So he had heard about Project Shakti. So he called up our team there and he said, where are you guys implementing the pilot? So they said in Nalgonda. So he says, tomorrow morning, my wife and I are coming along with you to Nalgonda. So he went along with our team and he came back so impressed that when he wrote his book, Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, he has written there that, that Pradeep Kashyap, known as the father of rural India. So he actually
Wow.
gave me a bigger title, not rural marketing, but because that is more contemporary, so that is what he used. But my point is, why should he be in Hyderabad? Why should he ring up our people? And
So everything kept
actually,
on.
that is what propelled us, at the global level, because Project Shakti went on to become a Harvard business case.
Yes.
So that's how Mart became known globally,
Sir, but how
right?
do you
So
visualize? So
yeah,
now, being as
I just wanted to end this thing by saying that I have felt the hand of God behind me for all these years, because
wow.
He's the one who has opened doors after doors after doors. I could never, in my wildest dream, have imagined that one day I would be known amongst at least a few people in this country. Because as I
Super,
told
sir.
you, when I started out in Bhubaneswar, nobody knew me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so if you have to look from a father's eye, how do you look? I mean, how do you see India in coming times? Now you have a lot of scenario change in the country. COVID has happened, and the structural, emotional, so many things are going to be changing over a period of time. So, what do you see?
Yeah.
I mean, coming next 10 years or maybe 20 years, how do you see your rural?
Okay. See, the world over, countries that have prospered have moved away from rural and agriculture and have gone on to the industrial side. Okay. And that's why in these countries, the rural population has come down dramatically and the urban populations have gone up dramatically, and the number of urban centers has gone up. You look at China, it's all now, Wuhan itself is a big industrial center. Okay? In the US, only 4% people are engaged in agriculture. The rest are all in manufacturing or services in the urban sector. So all kinds of international consulting firms, starting from McKinsey to BCG to EY to KPMG, they have all predicted that India will also go that way. Okay?
Hmm.
But my firm belief is that India is a different country and we will not go that way. Okay? After 70 years, our rural population percentage has come down from 84% to 67. So it has taken
Yes.
70 years to come down by 17%. And there is no way that in the next 10 years, from 70%, it will come down to 40%. Yeah? And now, with COVID, with the reverse migration phenomena, where people are actually going back to the villages, and believe you me, this is a landmark moment in the history of this country, because the structure will change dramatically. You'll find more and more reverse migration as some opportunities come up in rural India. So, what are these opportunities? See, we have about 6 lakh villages and about 8,000 towns. So,
Yes.
every town has a satellite of about 80-100 villages, right?
Hmm.
Now, the classic example here is Rudrapur on the way to Nainital. Rudrapur used to be a completely rural area, but then an industrial estate was started there. The Tata Nano plant, the Ashok Leyland plant, PNG, Colgate, all these companies have set up factories. And where does he get the labor from? From these 80-100 villages around. So the companies have benefited because they've got labor cheaper than what they would have imported from Delhi or from any other big center. And these workers have benefited because they've got permanent employment, and they do up down on their motorbikes. That is the reason for the high sale of Hero MotoCorp's bikes in rural India, because these
Hmm.
salaried people, they have to travel 20, 30 kilometers from their village to the factory area, and they go back in the evening. Like you and I, we also commute that much. So I see this model where there will be a hub and there will be 80-100 villages around it, but that hub must be promoted as a smart town. This concept of a smart city hasn't taken off because the kind of budgets you have are never going to be sufficient to make any impact on the city. Whereas
Hmm.
a small town with a population of 50,000 or 100,000, if you give a few crore rupees, you will really change the economy of that town and
Hmm.
the neighboring villages. So that's a model, hub and spoke model, where rural workers will do some work and it will come to these hubs, and from the hubs it will get distributed up and exported or whatever.
Yes.
It will never be that 90% of our population will move into urban areas. So that's my vision of rural India, and I mean I have the father of the nation to corroborate that vision, because he always talked about the village republic.
Yes. So now, do you think that there is so much opportunity existing in those areas? If you're talking about 8,000 towns, and you have influx of people coming over there, is there so much of opportunities, or do you see that they may go back in coming times? I mean, certain percentage of people will go back, certain of people will remain over there, and then most important is, are they going to find that kind of an opportunity really?
Yeah, see, that's where we have to, I mean, the government has to take the responsibility for finding that opportunity. And what are the areas of opportunity?
Yes.
The first area is around food processing. Okay? All the production of agri products takes place in the villages, and then
Hmm.
you have a lot of wastage of food at the farm head. So if we can set up supply chains, then we'll be able to set up large food manufacturing plants. And as you know, India processes only 4%, whereas the Western countries process 60-70% of their food. And that's why there is no wastage. Right?
Hmm.
So food processing is one big area. Milk has already become a big area. Almost every second household in rural India has a cow or a buffalo. Right? That was never the case 50 years back, where before Dr. Kurian started Amul. Okay?
Hmm.
So that's the other opportunity. Then you are going to have in agriculture itself these new models that have come up of hiring tractors, hiring harvester combines, having yeah, farm
Hmm.
equipment. So this is like the Uber model in rural
Yes.
India,
Hmm.
because farmers can't afford to buy that, but they need it for their land, so they will hire these. So I see a lot of new models emerging in rural India. Okay?
And
So
sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
So I was just saying, I mean, you have seen this transition happening in last 3 to 4 decades. So what are the changes you have seen in the every decade as such?
Yeah, okay. So I have developed a model. Okay, and our prime minister has these acronyms for every scheme. So I have also followed on that thing. So I
Hmm.
call this the 4D model, 4D for
Hmm.
Delhi, 4D model. The
Okay.
first D, the first D represents the decade of the 90s. Okay, I
Hmm.
entered this field in 1990, so
Hmm.
my journey starts from there. So the decade of the 90s, right, from
Hmm.
90 to 2000, is what I call the decade of denial. So wherever
Hmm.
I went to meet CEOs of different companies, they said the rural mein kya hai? Nobody has purchasing power, so what you're talking is not quite
Hmm.
correct. Nobody is going to buy anything. Okay. So at that time, the who were the customers in rural India? It was basically
Hmm.
the farmers who were the consumers. Okay.
Yes.
It was artisans, and because there was very little wealth in rural India and it was distributed over a very large population, so the per capita income was very, very small, right? So rural India was really a backward area, and believe you me, जो गांव में रहता है, you know, गांव में रहने वाला is a gavar. He lives in the villages, but gavar has become a bad term. Is a term
Yes.
of a backward or a you know uh, thing. So anyway, so that is the decade of denial. Then the next decade is the decade of doubt, where
Hmm.
companies are saying, yeah, yeah, we are seeing some signs of growth and some demand is coming up, but give us a winning strategy and tell us where should we go and market. Okay.
Hmm.
So So now the corporates are beginning to show interest, but they are still waiting for somebody else to take the lead so that they will take benefit out of it. And then these Rudrapur kind of industrial estates have started coming up in different areas. So some salaried jobs have come up, right? By now, almost every household has somebody in a salaried job. So it is not
Hmm.
depending only on farming income or only on milk income, but somebody also has a job. It may not be in a multinational company, but it is in, it's a regular kind of a job. Then this decade which we've just finished, which is the decade of the 2010 to 2020, is the decade of demand. Now, what has
Hmm.
happened is Hero MotoCorp, which had no presence in rural India before that, within 5 years, they're getting 50% of their bike sales from rural India.
Yes.
Maruti, 40% of their car sales from rural India. Okay? And I can give you a list of so many others. So the demand explosion is happening. And why has this happened? Because a lot of income has come into rural India. We have become the
Hmm.
number one milk producing nation in the world. We have
Hmm.
become the number two pisciculture fisheries production in the world. Okay?
Yes.
We have our horticulture production has, for the first time in the history of India, exceeded our food grains production.
Hmm.
And horticulture is fruits, vegetables, spices, flowers. And all these fetch a much better price per kilo. So टमाटर तो
Hmm.
2 रुपए किलो बिकेगा, but spices तो 200 रुपए किलो बिकेंगे,
Hmm.
right? So money has now come into the hands of the farmer, and that's why they're buying all these big ticket items. Okay? And the current decade is what I call the decade of digital. So,
Technology. Hmm.
so denial, doubt, demand, digital, and
Fine.
and and your consumer classification, which is what you had asked, how the consumers have evolved. So, as I
Yeah.
said, during the first decade of denial, it was basically
Hmm.
farmers, artisans, small people who were the thing. In the
Hmm.
second doubt period, then the salaried class started coming in as the additional
Hmm.
buyers, and then subsequently, and the generation X, okay, which is the people
Hmm.
in the 40s or so. So they got added because some of them have got small time jobs as a school teacher or a postmaster or whatever. And then in the demand stage, you've got the Gen Y or the millennials coming up because now connectivity has improved. So these people have become savvy, and
Hmm.
and individualistic buying has now entered rural India in the third decade, which is the decade of demand. Earlier, if you
Hmm.
had to buy a motorcycle, you will consult your friend, you will consult your chacha, you will consult somebody else, and three or four people will go to buy that motorbike for you. But now that youth, he surfs the net the way you and I surf the net for our car or four-wheeler, purchases. So he does the same, and he doesn't need anybody else to come with him. Now he's confident that he's backed with all knowledge, and he can go and decide what he wants. Right? So consumer behavior is evolved from a group behavior to an individual behavior, right?
Hmm.
And the 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 status symbols have changed in rural India. See,
Hmm.
earlier, if you had a big land, you were, the zamindar, the landlord, okay, and you were the landlord's son. Okay? Now, the mobile phone has done a remarkable thing that the mobile
Yes.
phone is issued in that youth's personal name. So if I am Ramu's son, in the village I was always known as Ramu's son. I had no
Hmm.
identity. But now when I've
Hmm.
got a mobile phone, the mobile phone is my name. My name is Sham Ram or whatever, right? So suddenly I've got an independent identity. I'm no longer Ramu's son, a faceless character. I am now Sham Singh. So I have my own identity. So
Hmm.
how these products and consumer behavior changes with these things.
Sir, you just mentioned about Gen Z. Okay, these are people who are within highly influenced with the mobiles and TV and all those things. But how do you see the role of women? Because at one point of
That's
time,
a very, yeah, yeah,
women was taking all the decisions. So, what do you see?
yeah,
The fourth D you spoke about. What is going to be the role of women in coming times?
yeah. This is a very good question. See, there are three or four things that have happened in the last 30 years again.
Hmm.
And sequentially, in the 90s, in the first decade, which I talked about, you had the amendment to the Panchayati Raj, which said that one third of the Panchayat heads must be women. Okay.
Yes.
So when women started becoming uh, pradhans, they had to play the role of a man. कितना सीमेंट लगेगा, construction कहाँ होगा, going to the
Hmm.
town for attending meeting the BDO and sometimes the collector. So
Hmm.
women's empowerment process has started from this Panchayati Raj thing in the 90s. Then in the
Yes.
2000s, you had the whole thing of the microfinance groups coming in from Grameen Bank, the
Hmm.
microfinance model. So groups started getting formed, and today there are some 7 million groups in rural India, each having a membership of 10 women. So there are about 70 million women who are members of these groups, which means every second household has a member in these groups, and this gives them a lot of knowledge and exposure because they
Hmm.
discuss money matters. मेरे को लोन लेना है, ये काम शुरू करना है, मीटिंग के लिए जाना है शहर में,
Hmm.
right? So that's the third thing that has happened. The fourth thing that has happened is the rising levels of literacy. Women's
Hmm.
literacy has risen very sharply in the last 2 decades.
Yes.
So now women feel much more empowered. And since they're earning their own money through their, self-help group livelihoods like Project Shakti women, the men also
Hmm.
have learned to respect them because they are bringing money into the family.
Hmm.
So women have emerged as individual buyers, which was never the case in the past. So they will buy whatever brand of soap they prefer. Earlier, there was only one brand of soap that would come for the whole family. Then the son
Hmm.
would say, "No, I want a different brand." But now
Hmm.
the woman of the house is saying that I want a different brand.
Hmm.
So women's empowerment, women's liberation, and women's participation as consumers is going
Yes.
to dominate the next decade.
So you mean the brand has to be very careful while planning their marketing strategies that this is a one sector or one section which you cannot just miss out.
Absolutely, because see, the demand is going to come from women and from
Yes.
the millennials. These are the two segments that you have to look at, because the
Yes.
X generation is now old and they don't even know what brands are in the market and what new products are coming, right?
Hmm.
Because they're not tech savvy. So
Hmm.
it's these younger people, and believe you me, there is no difference between these consumers and urban consumers because they both have access to the same information on the net. They're both
Hmm.
equally aware. They're both in a salaried job, so they're earning income, independent income. Right? So they are the ones who are now driving the demand, and because companies have not met this demand in the past, this demand has started to explode in the last 5 years, as we have
Hmm.
seen with two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and many other product categories.
So, sir, in your view, how is important for rural income generation?
How's the
Informal sector.
right informal sector? Yeah.
Yes.
See, in India, the informal sector accounts for over 90% of the workforce. Okay?
Hmm.
The organized sector workforce is between 7 to 10% only.
Oh.
But
Hmm.
in rural India, 100% of the workforce is unorganized because nobody works in a big factory. So nobody
Hmm.
has any safety net that he gets provident fund, ESI, insurance, paid
Hmm.
leave, and all that. So who are the people what are the occupations in rural India? A farmer, So he's
Okay.
self-employed. He has
Hmm.
no security from anywhere. Farm
Hmm.
labor, no security. Handicrafts
Hmm.
and new people, no security. Khadi
Hmm.
weavers, no security. So rural India is 100% unorganized. And this is the time when this COVID problem has come in and a lot of people have reverse migrated. This is the time to put pressure on the government that these people must start getting formalized because
Hmm.
they are the backbone of the economy. See,
Hmm.
where does all our food come from? From
Of
rural
course, from
India?
yes,
Okay. Where does cloth material come from? So cotton,
rural.
silk, wool
Yes,
comes from rural India. Okay. Where does all our building material come from? Bricks, they're not made in Delhi or Bombay. They come
true.
from rural India. The cement, the lime and all comes from rural India. The wood comes from the forests in rural India. So your roti kapda makan comes from rural India.
Hmm.
So rural is not only important, it is critical for our survival.
Hmm.
And that is why the government has to recognize this, that if
Yeah.
we don't pay attention to rural, we will not get our roti, we will not get our kapra, we will not get our makan.
Hmm.
And these are the people who have,
Hmm.
kept us clothed, who have kept us in good shelters, and who have fed us hot food on our table without us knowing the kind of
Hmm.
hardship the farmer goes through in, under the hot sun or under hail and whatever.
Hmm. So, so another thing we talk about FPOs these days.
Ah, yeah.
So, how have they been effective in wealth?
See, the FPOs were started with the intention that agri marketing will get a boost and farmers
Hmm.
will get a better price. Okay.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, till date, there are only around 6,000 FPOs in India, which
How
is
many?
very
Six.
inadequate. 6,000, which is
Yes.
very inadequate for a large country like India. But more importantly, these FPOs, the
Hmm.
members are the farmers. Okay?
Hmm.
The farmers don't have management capability. So they don't know how to calculate the price of their products properly. They don't know how to negotiate with a buyer. Okay? They don't understand forward trading. They don't understand, the modern systems of management and their capacities to become better in management skills has been lagging.
Hmm.
So ultimately, FPOs are not what they were meant to be. They've
Yeah.
not played that role.
You mean to say they're same like middlemen, which was happening all the time earlier, or
Yeah,
they
it
are
hasn't.
bit?
Yeah, they haven't really evolved the way the vision was that they would become, the mainstream for marketing of rural produce. But
Uh,
that hasn't happened.
that hasn't happened really. Okay. So I think we have very less time right now. So who is any business leader who has really inspired you? And I've been hearing
Not
a
a,
lot when people you talk about.
yeah, no, not a business leader, but I think Gandhiji, of course,
Visionary.
is one who is, yeah, he has really inspired me because I've also, as I mentioned, worked as the chairman of the Khadi
Hmm.
marketing committee. So I've
Hmm.
developed a good understanding of the Khadi sector
Hmm.
because he could bring 6 million weavers and spinners under one roof. So
Hmm.
through his efforts, today there are 6 million people who are getting part-time employment and therefore income. And it's a very
Hmm.
large number. And he under his name, we could set up 8,000 retail outlets all over the country. And these are in the best locations on mall roads, on Nainital and Mussoorie and Simla and everywhere. And in Delhi, also in the Regal building. Yeah, we
Hmm.
have the big Khadi center. So he is one. And the other is Dr. Kurian, who's done a similar thing. Amul
Yes.
is owned by 4 million farmers. right?
Yes.
So these 4 million people have come up in the economic ladder and today earn significantly more than what they earned 30, 40 years back.
Yeah, I think they have been the instrument in the rural India as such. And
Yeah,
there are,
absolutely.
yes.
And this
And
answers your question that, what are the opportunities in rural India? These are the
yes.
opportunities that these visionaries have created, right?
Hmm.
So we have to try and work around these models. So you then have Lijjat Papad. Okay,
Yes.
Lijjat Papad also
Yes.
helps small town and village women who do the
Hmm.
rolling of the papads, but the procurement of the raw material is done centrally by the center, the Lijjat center, so that quality is uh, consistent across the country or across the world. And the final product is packaged, branded, marketed by the center. But these women do the rolling and they make some income. So these are the kinds of models that we have to
But
to generate large scale employment.
yeah, this makes sense. You have spoken two of the areas. Probably the most is one, second is Khadi. And if I look at rural, there are so many other areas. I'm just
Yes.
surprised why aren't there. Then Lijjat Papad is another strong case study. One I heard something from Rajasthan recently. Some lady who has done some wonderful work in rural way, connecting all the people in the rural areas. But so many opportunities are there. Why people are not really thinking that way that these opportunities can be explored?
Yeah. Yeah. Because see, one is there is not enough knowledge amongst the more educated class about rural India. Yeah.
Hmm.
The second is, since you and I both belong to this sector, we know
Hmm.
that rural was always downgraded. People
Yes.
would prefer a posting to New York. Nobody would want to go to Jhumri Talaya. Yeah. So,
Yes.
so yeah. So at least through RMAI and other efforts, I've been visiting so many campuses. So one has tried to bring about a change in the thinking of urban people and
Hmm.
bring a better status to rural India. And today, I think that has started to happen. So that's why you have a number of these experiments in Jaipur. Rugs is one,
Yes.
Seva in Ahmedabad is another. Okay, so
Hmm.
like that, there are a few, but we need many more.
Okay. And so, any market mantra you would like to give to the startups and all those companies who are planning to move into the rural markets?
Yeah, you had talked about the leadership mantra,
Yes.
and everybody in their own rights is the leader. So when it comes to rural, since I've been through this process over 30 years, there are a few lessons, a few things that I've learned. The
Hmm.
first is that you have to unlearn what you know because we all
Very-
come from an urban background and we
Yes.
make certain assumptions. It's like
Yes.
when somebody from the West comes to India, he has a certain perception about urban India also. The same way we have a perception about rural India. So that
Hmm.
needs to be so we need to unlearn and simultaneously we need to relearn,
True.
right? And this relearn has to be from the
Sorry, I'll just interrupt in this. Do you think this learning and unlearning want the right people would be people who are really from the rural areas? I mean, because
yes,
felt the brunt of it. We sitting in urban
yes,
area, we primarily look at more white collared work. We are studying some very Harvard and Stanford and these kind of institutes. And like you mentioned that before you started your this thing, you had never visited a village.
yes,
Similar is the
yes.
case, which is
Yeah, it is the case with most people. Absolutely, yeah. So see, we have to make rural more glamorous. Okay,
you're using the
we
right
have
word.
to,
Yes.
yeah,
Hmm.
we have
Hmm.
to introduce a lot more government awards for so that you get recognition for young people that
Hmm.
they're doing nation building. They're doing the task of nation building by
Hmm.
serving rural India. So I
Hmm.
think that you know that glamour and that status needs to be uh, encouraged. Yeah? And that has to be the role of the government. RMI has done that in a limited way. Today
Yes.
there are many more companies and NGOs and others who are interested in the rural
Mm.
sector. So that's, I think, what we need to do, and you'll find one in 100 person who has the passion or at least the desire, and he will go there.
Yes.
So that's on the this thing. The other thing is that my learning was when I spent some couple of days in rural India. So seeing people from morning to night, how they live, what they do, what are the hardships, what do
Mm.
they experience. Because believe you me that when we started Project Shakti, our
Mm.
teams had been visiting Nalgonda very frequently earlier. So they were so friendly with the family that they used to go into their homes and have lunch with them, right? So when we took the senior managers from Levers on our first trip to Nalgonda, I was also there, and we took them
Mm.
to a village home. The Unilever general manager said that this is the first time I've entered a rural home, although I've been doing rural marketing for so many
Mm.
years. He
Mm.
says to us, rural marketing meant that one shop in the village, you would just
Mm.
stop the car for 2 minutes. अच्छा डिमांड है, सब कुछ मिल रहा है प्रोडक्ट, हाँ कोई प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है, वो शेल्फ खाली लग रहा है, थोड़ा लक्स ऑर्डर कर दो हाँ और सब ठीक है, चलो
Mm.
नमस्ते.
Mm.
So that is what rural marketing to most people was, and that's why
Mm.
the understanding was very limited. They could not understand why women are so slow in learning, how to calculate discounts or schemes and
Yes.
all that. Yeah, because we assume that if our
Mm.
women can understand these things, why can't the rural women understand this? That is
Yes.
because we don't know. So we have to learn. And the last
Yes.
thing is that we have to respect rural sentiments and rural traditions.
Mm.
See, what happens is we go there and we say, सब गलत कर रहे हो, ऐसा थोड़ा ना होता है, क्या तुम्हारा
Mm.
अंधविश्वास है, ये है, वो है. You will
Mm.
be rejected as an outsider.
Yes.
You know? So we have to blend with this thing. Is like if I come to your house, I can't
Mm.
dictate कि खाना लगाओ भाई देर हो रही है मेरे को जाना है वापस. So
Mm.
similarly, when you work with rural people, you can't say कि मेरे हिसाब से करो और ये तुम ठीक नहीं कर रहे हो, इसमें कुछ नहीं
Mm.
मिलेगा तुम्हारे को मुनाफा. See, many
Mm.
agricultural companies go and tell farmers that you change your cropping pattern. ये आपके लिए most optimum है, ये लगाओगे तो बढ़िया होगा. Not
Mm.
realizing जब harvest होता है, तो that buyer is not going to come for his new product that he has grown. 5 किलो
Mm.
10 किलो ग्रो किया तो वो थोड़ा आएगा.
Mm.
So you have to understand all these nuances and
Yes.
then guide people.
So great, sir. It has been we time. और अगर मेरे को लगता है कि मेरे को तो आपके साथ पूरा एक सीरीज स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा because I had lot of questions to ask. So maybe I'll be talking to you next time on some more interesting topics. And thank you so much for being with us. It was really a pleasure because I think the
Thank
insights
you
what
very
you provide, the best nuggets which can be provided is to come from you. And I'll be again getting in touch with you for more such kind of talks. So thank you so
much. Oh
much
yes,
for being with us.
my pleasure, and I'd be very happy to do a series with you to do more talks because I think the knowledge of rural needs to spread, and
Yes.
I think people need to see that an ordinary guy with no background of rural India,
Mm.
with no management qualifications, if he
Mm.
could make some success, then
Yes.
it can act as a motivation to younger people.
Yes, sir. That's very, very much required. And this has been our this thing that we have been trying somehow that we have been asking our brands, please look at this. There's such a big opportunity over there, but it is a slow process. And we have taken that initiative. You have so much of knowledge, and I think so. We collectively we can bring up a lot of knowledge, lot of case studies probably, which we if
Yeah,
we tell to people, I think yes, the opportunity can be created.
a lot of that responsibility has to be taken by the existing rural fraternity to
Mm.
make rural attractive for others.
So it's a great efforts which you have been going through, and let's see, sir, jointly if we can do something for that. We'll be more than happy to be associated with you in coming times.
I'll
Thank you
be
so much.
very happy for us doing things jointly because anything for the benefit of rural India, and I'm with you.
Pleasure talking to you, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you, sir.
Thank,
Bye bye.
thank you very much, Ajay.
Thank you so much for watching Rural Talks. Rural Talks has been bringing a lot of leaders, industry experts who has got a lot of insights, a lot of thoughts on the rural markets, what really marketers are planning, what are the opportunities which exist in the market. So keep updated with it. And today, Mr. Pradeep Kashyap said that he would be very keen if he can start a series with him because the kind of knowledge he carries, it's immense knowledge, 30 years of knowledge which is there. And in this new series which we have thought about, I think we are going to be talking on regular basis and bring a lot of insights to him, a lot of case studies. In case you have anything you really want to understand the rural markets, please mail to us. Our leadership will be more than team will be more than happy to answer these questions. Or maybe if you have any questions, you have my email ID where you can send a mail directly to me. And please stay tuned. And in case you like this video, please do not forget to subscribe. Stay happy and stay safe. Thank you so much.